What's up, guys? This is TheKephas. Today we are talking about UIs in World of Warcraft, specifically my UI. I like to call it KEphUI, and I'm going to share it with you, and we're going to go over it in all three iterations of World of Warcraft: Retail, Classic, and Classic Era, and I'm going to share all of it with you guys so that if you want to, you can use it for yourself. And the reason why I'm doing this is because I actually get a lot of requests for this. People watch my videos, they like what they see, they like my UI, and they ask if they can use my UI. So I'm going to do my very best to go over all this, cover as much ground as I can, and help you guys understand how my UI works. And then if you want to use it, you can copy and paste the strings into your mods and use it for yourself. So we'll go over the best we can, okay? I wish I was like smart enough to streamline this in a way that was much more presentable and wasn't just me rambling for an eternity, but I'm going to do my best, and I do apologize if this is a long video. But before we get into like the different versions of my UI for the different versions of WoW, there are some disclaimers that I want to go through first. And so the first thing I want to acknowledge is the main reason why I have a UI like this, why it's so minimalistic, is primarily because I am visually impaired. My UI is built around me being visually impaired, so that's why things might be bigger on my screen than they would need to be for the average person, and why some things are in the locations that they're in. I also play the game with a controller. It's much easier for me to identify buttons on a controller than it is on a keyboard, even though there's the home keys and all that kind of stuff. It's still just a lot easier for me to quickly identify where I am on a gamepad than it is on a keyboard. And that's why I've been playing with the controller for a very, very long time. And so my UI is built around control play. It's built around a more action-oriented style of game. And that's why you see the offset camera and a UI that I don't want to overestimate my UI, but I'm trying to resemble something more like Elden Ring or those types of adventure games, The Witcher, you know what I'm saying. So that's my goal, what I'm trying to accomplish here, the best I can. And so that's why my UI looks this way. It's a sort of an adventure style gameplay. And so, yeah, that's kind of the idea there. So yeah, visually impaired, that's why a lot of it's the way it is. So some things that are tailored to me may not be ideal for you, but you can certainly take what I have here and build off of it yourself if you'd like to, or just take the inspiration and make your own UI. And that's kind of the second thing I want to explain. This video is not meant to be a tutorial on how to use the mods that we're going to go over. There are other people that are better suited for that in many ways, and you can also go to Reddit, WoW UI, the subreddit, and there's a lot of good information there as well. You can obviously check out, the mod authors for the various mods that I use, and as well, I think a lot of them have Discords. So there are a lot of resources out there. I am not the best one for that, primarily because there are just people that are better at it. There are other resources out there that'll probably do it better than me. And most importantly, I want to make sure I explain this. If you come to my video, like you watch this video, you're trying to set things up, and you come and leave a comment, there is a good chance that I'm not going to see your comment, and I might not notice it at all. And if I do notice it, it may be long after you need the help. I get a lot of people that'll comment on my videos, and I'll see things later in other videos, and people say, I've been trying to get a hold of you and I can't, you're not responding. You have to understand, please understand respectfully, that I am visually impaired again. And so a lot of times I just miss comments, unfortunately. It makes it sometimes a little difficult for me to engage with my audience on a level that I would like. But if I don't comment or reply to you or acknowledge you, please don't think I'm being rude. I just have a vision problem. I have a lot of other things in my life outside of like YouTube and stuff, and so I have to go out of my way to notice comments, and so that's why a lot of times I won't see comments. So that's why a lot of times I make sure I mention that I'm not a tutorial, I'm not a help desk, I'm not good at that kind of stuff. I'm not reliable, to be honest, for that type of help. But there are other resources that you can go to. I'm just a presenter and showing what I have, and hopefully giving you that so that you can use that. Okay, so I hope that makes sense, and I hope you guys understand. I'm not trying to be rude. I like to be as helpful as I can, but I am limited, and that's why a lot of times I don't respond to comments. Okay, and I want to mention that because I've done videos like this in the past. The last one I did was over a year ago, and people really liked that video, and I've gotten a lot of comments because apparently the strings from that video for the UI are broken, and they've been broken for a long time, and people have been trying to, you know, upload my UI to their game, and the strings are broken. And so to offer an explanation, the reason why that seems to be is I think what happens is every time the mod gets updated, so like if I upload a string to Pastebin for whatever iteration patch version of the mod that I have, whenever that mod gets updated, that string gets broken. Or if it doesn't get broken every update, there's an update that ultimately will break the string at some point. So sometimes that does happen, I guess. That's something that I didn't really know would ever be a problem, but I guess it is. So if you're watching this video in the future from when I've uploaded it, I mean, I don't know, it could be a week, it could be a month, and the strings aren't working, that is probably why. I will try to do my best to keep up with it in the future, my best. But I can't guarantee that I will always like have it up to date, you know, if there's a broken string, you know, so please again, forgive me. But at the very least, if I'm not getting with it in a timely manner, hopefully you can look at what I have here and you can use the inspiration if nothing else. But I will sincerely try my best to keep up with the strings the best I can and keep up with it. And of course, anytime I make any major changes to my UI, then I will, you know, happily reshare it and show it in another video. So like I said, there were a lot of disclaimers to go over. Now let's go ahead and get into things. So this is the retail version of my UI, as you can tell, with all the crazy different things happening in this game. It's awesome. And so the main add-ons that I use for all my UIs, they're all kind of the same. They all use the same, add-ons as much as possible. The main add-ons are Consoleport and ElvUI. Consoleport is primarily what you see with this action bar down in the bottom left, but it's also the add-on that enables WoW to be played with a controller. Well, WoW has like native controller support, but Consoleport expands on that significantly. ElvUI is the add-on that basically covers most of the rest of my UI. So my unit frames, party frames, that kind of stuff. And then of course this up here is called Location Plus. This is a plugin for ElvUI. So if you want this, you would also want to get Location Plus. So Consoleport and ElvUI, and then some ElvUI plugins. The only other plugin that I use for ElvUI is one called Addonskins, and that just makes allows for some integration with other add-ons like Details Damage Meter, which I can put in a panel, which you can see I can toggle on and off on the bottom right corner of my screen. So with Addonskins, I'm able to integrate details into ElvUI and use Consoleport to toggle it on and off. So that's pretty cool. I can also do that with my chat frame. We'll get into why my chat frame is where it is here in a little bit. So as you can see, a lot of my UI is hidden. And the reason why I do that is because I am visually impaired. I know I've mentioned that now like 20 times, but my idea is if I have things on the outside of my screen, like certain things, then I don't see them enough. Like chat, for example. I don't engage in chat very often because if I have chat over on the left side of my screen, I don't see it very well. I have to like extend my neck and like go out of my way to look over because I'm extremely nearsighted and I have no peripheral vision. So what I've opted to do is to show and hide it, okay? And what this lets me do is I can put it wherever I want on my screen, ideally for me, right in the middle. And whenever I'm chatting, I can just look at it. And when I'm done, I can just hide it. So when I'm playing the game, I'm not really needing to read chat very often. So that's kind of the idea there. And even if I am in the middle of combat, I can easily pop it up, read it, see what's going on, and then take it away again. So that's totally an option that I can do. It's just a quick, click of a button on my controller, and it's good to go. So that's where that's at. Also, my minimap does the same thing. For the same reason, I can't see it when it's tucked away on the upper right corner of the screen. So I took a page out of Final Fantasy XIV's book, which has like that extra map that you can toggle on and off and have it in the middle of your screen. And that's kind of the idea there. So I have my mini map if I need to look and see where I am, or looking for like ore when I'm farming, that kind of stuff. Then I can just toggle on my mini map on and off as I need. So I do the same thing with my chat and with my mini map, and those are kind of in the middle of my screen. Now, this may not be ideal for some people. I can imagine there are a lot of people that would not want to do that, and that's totally fine. You can move that wherever you want. It's up to you. You can alter this however you want to. It's not a big deal. So you're able to move the chat around accordingly. So I don't know if there's going to be any conflict with the new WoW UI, like default UI movers. I don't know how that works, but for me, I have it in the middle of the screen and it works just fine. So that's where my chat is. And then, basically everything else, like my unit frames are tucked away on the top left. I don't need to see them very often because when I'm in combat, I have my player health bar down on the bottom, and I also have nameplates with my targets, so I can see enemies as well. I guess if I were to heal in the game, then my party frames are tucked away on the top, like under my unit frames over here. That might be a challenge. I might have to move those in the future, or maybe make a healing version of the UI if I want to. It's easy to change them, change profiles as you need. But yeah, as you can see, this is what my nameplates look like. The only thing I have to look up to is like buffs, but again, that's not too often. I have debuffs. They kind of show up right here next to my, here, let's use, oh no, it's not, use, where's lay on hands at? Oh wait, here we go. We'll just use that. Okay, there we go. So now I've got forbearance, and you can see that's where my debuffs go. So I can easily see when I have a debuff, and it's whatever. So that's kind of the idea there as well. So yeah, target frames and health, player health, I can kind of tuck away a little bit because I have these alternatives. So that's kind of the idea there. And so that's pretty much everything. I mean, that's the basic, core part of the UI. There are a couple of add-ons that I use instead of ElvUI. I have a couple of modules disabled, so like you can actually disable certain aspects of ElvUI and manage them separately. So like my map add-on is Sexymap. I don't use ElvUI's minimap. So, that's an add-on that I use separately, and I just kind of made it a square, put it in the middle of my screen, made it a little bit bigger, and I called it a day. ElvUI's minimap is great, but I just prefer Sexymap more. And then I don't use the ElvUI bags. I use Adibags instead. I love Adibags again. So I just kind of, put that there, and it made it a little bit bigger and called it a day. So those are a couple of add-ons that I use. So if I don't manage the bag or minimap portions of ElvUI. So if they're in a weird spot, that's probably why I have them disabled. So that pretty much covers everything. I might have a couple fonts that I use. Here, we can open ElvUI and I can show you. I don't know where I got my fonts, to be honest. It's been so long, but I use one called Althas Grotesque Bold is what I use. That's my main default font. And then for combat, I use this one. It's called BKA IOOM. I don't know where I found that, but that's what I thought. I like the numbers, so that's why I use it. No, I cannot share those with you. No, I cannot share fonts. That's not something I can do. So you maybe can try to find those if you want to use them yourself, but that's the idea there. So I think I covered most of my UI. One other thing I will say, let me go ahead and open it up. ElvUI, oops, mistype. How did I spell? VUI. Okay, there we go. We'll go ahead and open up the mover so you can kind of see where everything's at. In retail WoW, there are a couple of extra things, that like Classic won't have for the most part, but this is where you can kind of move things around. You can kind of get an idea for where party frames are in raid frame. I use one raid frame, one size fits all, and then there's the totem bar here, which I never really use. Yeah, this is pretty much it. The only thing I will point out, because I had a hard time figuring out where it was at first. So ElvUI, in Dragonflight, they took the dungeon eyeball thing, when you're queued up for a dungeon, they took it off the minimap and they put it on the microbar. So ElvUI took it off the microbar and put it on a separate button by itself that you can move around the screen. So it's up here. It's up here on the top. If you queue up for a dungeon and you're wondering where that thingy is, it's up here at the top. I don't have the microbar shown. I find it useless. I don't use it at all. So the dungeon, that's important. I had a hard time. That was really frustrating. I was like, how do I know how long my queue is? It was annoying, but it's up here now, tucked away right below location plus. So yeah, that's that. And then if you're wondering what the numbers are below location plus, this is your experience percentage and then your rested XP. So that's what that is. So once you hit max level, that will disappear. I think I have covered all the basic things. Let's go ahead and open up Consoleport now, and I'll go over a couple of things here. We'll just look at this. So there are a couple of extra add-ons that I use that are in Consoleport. Like I use the key bindings in Consoleport. So we'll go over that real quick and just in general. So the face buttons and the D-pad are how you do action bars, and you can hold down left trigger, right trigger, both triggers, and you get even more action buttons with them. When you hold down both triggers, if you look over here at the D-pad, it will use the ElvUI's, the Consoleport's rings, which you can create manually, and then you can integrate them into your hotkeys for your controller. So I use 3. One's called travel, one's called class, and one's called professions. The utility ring is the default ring. This is where like your quest items will go. So if you have quest items used, you can do that there. You also have your extra action button, and that's keybound as well. So you can just kind of come in here and look and see what all is being used. But if you want to use these rings, you will still have to, like, even though they're keybound and you can look down here and you can see that they're keybound to your D-pad, you still have to create them manually for some reason. But once you create them and name them exactly what they are here, travel, profession, class, then they will keybind, if that makes sense. So it's weird, but that's how you have to do it, and I have to do it with every character. It's kind of annoying, but it's just obviously like travel, hearthstones, or mounts or whatever. And then of course class, special class abilities, professions. It's all pretty self-explanatory. So that's pretty much everything there. Now, this here is Fishing Buddy. So if I hold down both triggers and I hit the Xbox button, then it uses Fishing Buddy, is it Fishing Buddy? Better Fishing. Sorry, not Fishing Buddy. Better Fishing. And it basically will let me fish with one button. It's awesome. Just have to kind of, if you use Better Fishing, you understand it's just a hotkey for that. So that's an add-on that I use. If you're not using any of the add-ons that are in here, then these hotkeys will be blank. So you don't have to worry about it, and then you can like put in your own hotkeys if you want to. Like ElvUI, left chat panel is here. Right chat panel is here. They're all both with the Xbox button. So, left trigger and Xbox button is left chat, and then right trigger and Xbox button is right chat. And then you can toggle the minimap with Xbox button without any triggers held down. That's kind of the idea there. And then I use an add-on called Livestock for mounting up. It's great. Like, it's a smart mount add-on, so it'll use a mount for ground mounts, flying mounts, dragons, dragon flying whenever you're in appropriate areas for that as well. So that's pretty cool. So that's where, Livestock is included there. And I think that's pretty much it. So ElvUI, Livestock, and then Better Fishing, I think are the only things that I have keybound, extra, like add-on related keybounds. Everything else is like in the game. There's a couple of other things I would like to go over. And so I'm just kind of making sure. I've got the ping, the new ping is in here. It's pretty cool. So if you hold down left trigger and hit your left stick down, then you will ping, and that's really useful. So that's kind of cool. So I like the new ping system. I think it's really neat. So another thing that you can do, hopefully this will make sense. I'll try to explain it the best I can, is you can actually create extra keybinds, like basically create extra buttons in ElvUI or in Consoleport. Getting my add-ons confused. So I'll try to explain. So like basically all the modern controllers have an extra button, right? Like Xbox has the share button, PlayStation has the touchpad, Switch has the screenshot button. Like you have an extra button in the middle for all your controllers now. Well, Consoleport doesn't account for that extra button or any other extra buttons that would be included on a controller. Some controllers just have extra buttons available. So you can actually assign a hotkey on your keyboard to these extra buttons here, P1, P2, P3, and P4. And then you can use your left trigger, right trigger in combinations with those hotkeys to get extra functionality out of Consoleport. So if you have like a button mapper program like ReWASD or something like that, or I don't know what was it, like Joy to Key? I forget. There's a bunch of different ones. X Patter. There's all kinds of options out there. You can set keybinds to those extra buttons on your controller and then use that same keybind in here and get some extra functionality out of Consoleport. So however many extra buttons you have, if you have a key mapper for your gamepad, you can do that. Or you can use Steam. Steam has a built-in key mapper as well, which is pretty easy. You can actually just use that one if you want to and integrate that with World of Warcraft. You can look it up how to set that up. Again, not really a tutorial. I know it's a lot, but just for extra functionality. So what I put in here is by default, hitting like for me, it's the share button on my Xbox Series X controller. So when I hit that button, I will interact with a target. So you can walk up to targets while it has this functionality now. You can walk up to targets, hit the interact button, and it will smart interact with your target. So whether it's an enemy, it will start attacking. An NPC, you can talk to them or turn in a quest, interact with like mining ore or quest objectives out in the world, all kinds of stuff. The interact functionality is awesome, and it's actually in all versions of the game, including classic, and it's just really cool, and it works really well with the controller, provided you hotkey it. So that's the way I've done it, is I've hotkeyed it to my share button, doing this roundabout method. Okay, so hopefully that makes sense. It's a lot, I didn't even know it was in the game until like 3 days ago, so I was really excited about that. So if I had extra buttons, I could totally add extra keybinds if I wanted to, which is pretty cool. So it also uses the Consoleport functionality for HUD management, or like party frames and unit frame management. So like you can actually like hit this hotkey and then hit a face button on your controller, and it will select the appropriate player in your party. So like if you're a healer, it can be very useful. And I have a couple of different versions of that. I will show that off in a minute. Of course, you can also take a screenshot if you hold down both triggers and then use this hotkey. So that's also cool. So yeah, let me show that real quick. It's really neat. So if you use the toggle, the unit frame, what was it called? I should have read what it is actually called. Target unit frames hold. So what you do is you hit, in my case, it's left trigger and the share button. And you can see now, if you look up at my unit frame, I have an A on my unit frame. So as long as I have that hotkey held down, if I hit A and let go, I target myself. So if I have a party of 5, then I have different buttons that I can use that will be assigned to my party members. And so if I hold down that there and then I hit the appropriate button, then I will target that player very quickly, and then I can heal them or buff them or whatever it is. And the alternative is right trigger and hitting the share button in my case, or that extra button, and that is called toggle raid cursor. So if I hit that one, it actually creates a cursor. Now it was a little wonky because I'm just by myself, so it kind of functions a little weird. I don't even know what it's targeting here, but I can use that to target my unit frame. So like if you're in a raid, like a 10-man, you can hit this, open up this cursor, and toggle or like scroll down to whichever character you need to heal, and then use your healing abilities that way. So it's a little weird. You can still walk around with having this up. It just turns your D-pad into unit frame navigation. So it's really cool. I haven't healed yet. I've never healed, so I haven't tested it out in action, but I have played Final Fantasy 14 and I'm used to navigating my UI with the D-pad, so it's not that foreign to me. It might be weird to some people, but it's really, really cool functionality, and I'm gonna probably try a couple of those AI dungeons and see how it works. But that's what that does. And so yeah, there's some extra functionality if you keybind an extra button. It'll do that for you. So I think that the keybind I use by default is F5. So if you use F5, or not F5, sorry, numpad 5 is what it is. Then numpad 5 is what I use. So you can go in there and you can find that. So that's what that does. I know that's a lot, you guys, and I do apologize. Yeah, there you can see it there. It's a lot, and like there's so much about these add-ons that I'm still learning. But this is kind of I know it's weird, but the basic stuff. So that's what this all does. And you know, if you want to use it, you totally can. It's entirely up to you. You can just import the profiles into ElvUI and then Consoleport, and then you will basically have my UI. It'll copy everything over. In ElvUI, to import, all you have to do is go to ElvUI and then go down to profiles and then hit import here, and then you'll just copy and paste the string in here and then click import and you'll be good to go. It'll be called TheKephas. And then if you want to import into Consoleport, it's a little bit weirder. It's one of these buttons up here. I think it's this one. Yes. So you click on this one, you copy the string down into here, you click load first, and then it'll give you the different parts of Consoleport that you can import, like the action bar and then all the keybinds and all that stuff. And then you just click apply and you'll be good to go. It'll reload your UI and then you'll have my UI in your game. So that's how that's going to work. You need to cancel. Go away. So I hope that makes sense. That's a lot to go over. But yeah, and so any other add-ons, if you're wondering, I'll try to remember with the best I can what other add-ons I use that you don't really need to import. You can just download and use out of the box. Like I said, I do use Sexymap. I do use Adibags. I use details damage meter. Immersion is a great add-on. So like when you go up to an NPC, and we'll go up to this innkeeper here and I'll show you. So I'm hitting my interact button, and so this is Immersion. It does this. You can navigate Immersion with your D-pad, so it has some Consoleport integration, which is really awesome, and it just looks really cool. And then you go back out. Dynamic Cam is the camera add-on that I use. It's like doing all the offset stuff, and like when I talk to this guy, it goes off to the sides. That's Dynamic Cam, and that's what that does. I think that's it. I don't think there's anything else that's going to change up how the UI looks and feels. You know, there are other add-ons I use. Some of them are pretty cool, but that's the main stuff. Obviously, I use an add-on called Soundtrack. I can change up the music in the game if I want to, which sometimes I like to do. But that's pretty much everything in retail WoW, and just in general. Most of everything I just told you is going to apply to the other two versions of the game. But we will go over to those versions and hop on and take a quick look at them, and I'll show you some of the differences in each one of them. So next, we'll hop over to Classic WoW. So now we are in Wrath of the Lich King Classic, and you can see that my UI looks pretty much the exact same. I use the same add-ons, Consoleport, ElvUI, and then of course all the extras are here as well. Immersion, details, Addonskins, Location Plus, Sexymap, Adibags. All the stuff I went over in retail is pretty much here. There are a couple of exceptions that we will go over. The main thing I want to point out is that in Classic and Classic Era, there is a separate string for ElvUI and Consoleport that you have to use that's different from retail. Both Classic and Classic Era use the same strings, but they are different from retail. At least for now. We'll see what happens in Cataclysm. But there are some minor changes, and we'll go over most of those. Like I said, functionally, it's pretty much the exact same. Classic has a few extra UI elements, like your auras down here, and then there are some elements in the UI that don't exist in Classic. So obviously, whatever isn't there in Classic won't be there that would otherwise be in retail WoW. So that's kind of the main thing. A good example here is the bar that goes below your player's feet. If I use my healing ability, for example, you can see that is a static bar. So in Classic, it doesn't have the anchored player nameplate like it does in retail, which is unfortunate. I really wish they would add that because it's very useful for me with my vision, but I can still have it. I just have it in a static position instead. So that's one of the bigger changes. And then of course, just some minor UI elements are different. That's pretty much it. Everything else is going to look and feel pretty much the exact same way. And then if I go under Consoleport here, you will see it's all pretty much the same. I mean, everything from the interact buttons to better fishing is included here. The chat frames you can toggle on and off just the same exact way. You got the same utility rings. If you want to use those, they're there. The only thing that's different, well, there's a couple of things actually, but the only add-on that's different is that I don't have Livestock. Livestock is not in Classic, so the way I manage my mounts and the way I mount up is using a mod called Mount Journal. It's really useful in Classic and in Classic Era as well, so that's what I use for that, and that's how I manage my mounts. So it's a smart mounting add-on. It requires a little bit more, finagling, but it does work pretty much. So that's what that's going to do. And then the only other thing is Classic doesn't have the extra action button. So the the extra action button that you can use, it's like based on what whenever it pops up on your screen in retail. Well, Classic doesn't have that. So there's a missing keybind under right stick. When you hold down right trigger and right stick, that was where extra action button goes. There's nothing there now. I don't replace it with anything for the most part, mainly because of muscle memory. Like, I don't know what I'd put in here, really. I mean, I'm sure there's something, but I just don't, because I like the game to feel the same no matter what version of the game I'm playing. The only exception is the quest frame. So the quest log is here, and it's with left trigger and control stick, because the game doesn't have the ping system. So I replaced it with the quest log, which is very important in Classic WoW. So you don't get the quest log when opening up your minimap like you do in retail. It's a separate panel entirely, so that's where it's at. So just one minor change, but yeah, for the most part, everything else is here. You've still got your group finder, you still got collections, and you have your achievements in Classic, Wrath Classic. So for the most part, it's the same. There's just one missing and one changed button. Pretty much everything else will function the exact same way, even with the extra button that we went over. So yeah, that's pretty much everything in Classic Wrath. Now, Classic Era has a few other things to look at, so let's go ahead and look at Classic Era. Last but certainly not least is Classic Era. Whether you're doing hardcore or Season of Discovery or just regular old Classic Era, this is going to work, and it pretty much functions the exact same way as Classic Wrath. That's why you use the same strings. All of the same add-ons that I've mentioned already are included here, so you'll be good to go there. And it pretty much functions the exact same way. I mean, ElvUI is the exact same in every way. There really aren't any differences there. And then Consoleport, the only thing I really want to go over with Classic Era, there are a couple of distinctions. You can still use the same string as Wrath. It's just that there's going to be a couple of extra missing keybinds, unfortunately. And that's just because things like the group finder, the dungeon finder, achievements, the extra action button, again, those sorts of things, they're all missing. So Classic Era has a few extra missing keybinds that you're more than welcome to fill in accordingly. But yeah, those extra frames, the extra panels and whatnot, obviously, if they don't exist, they're not going to be included in Consoleport, but you can still import with the same string and it should work just fine. So that's pretty much everything that I wanted to go over. I know it's a lot, you guys. It might be confusing for some. Like I said, it's, UI designing is a never-ending process for those of us that are crazy about our UIs, and obviously mine is kind of tailored towards me and how I play and my needs, but this is what I'm currently using, and you are welcome to use it. You will find the strings to both retail and to Classic down in the description, and you will have paste bin links there that you can just copy those strings into the corresponding add-on and you'll be good to go. And you're welcome to use other add-ons. Pretty much every other add-on that I mentioned doesn't have a profile that I would need to share. You're going to have to set up a lot of those things manually. But yeah, I hope this made sense. I hope like I said, it's a lot and you're free to use it. Just remember what I said there. If you're having issues, if the strings are broken, you feel free to let me know in the comments. I apologize again if I don't see those. I will do my best to keep up with them the best I can, but in general, that's kind of what it is. So like I said, I hope that all make sense, and I hope that you can find use for this. I hope I fulfilled the many requests that I've received the best that I can. And so yeah, feel free to let me know what you think of my UI in the comments below. I really do sincerely hope that this helped you out. With all that being said, I will see you guys, whether it's in Classic Era, or retail. I will see you guys on the next one. Thank you for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, let me know by clicking that like button. And feel free to share it with your friends so they can enjoy it as well. And if you'd like to see more videos, you can subscribe to the channel and click on the bell icon to be notified as soon as new videos are posted. You can also follow me on Facebook, and if you'd like, you can support my work on Patreon. Links to all that stuff can be found in the description below. This is TheKephas. Until next time.